Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. Thanks for taking time out to spend sort of 20 minutes with us. We're going to answer the marketing agency challenges of 2017 and beyond as we see it. So just a bit of housekeeping first off. I'm Mark Hennessy, Sales Director here at Nolan's. We also have Maggie Bampton, who's our BDM for Professional Services with us. And we're going to take you through this short presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, but we'll ask if you just save them for the end and we'll answer them via the chat or we'll certainly give you a call and follow up afterwards anyway. So just to sort of introduce us at Nolan, we're NetSuite and Microsoft Dynamics solution providers. We specialise in a few key sectors and professional services is one of those. We're based here in Fleet in Hampshire. We've also got a company out in the US. We're about 50 people in total. We've been around about sort of 28 years. As I said, this webinar is about the 5 key challenges facing marketing agencies, and we'll go through some considerations, potential solutions, and try and help overcome them. A lot of the research we're presenting has come from the Aberdeen Group, from Hinge Marketing, and from the sort of DMA, and we've kind of pulled it all together along with our own thoughts and comments on each of these topics. And then we'll sort of wrap up with how us at Nolan can help you overcome these challenges and have just a quick look at the NetSuite Services Resource Planning System and how that might help. So I'll hand you over to Maggie to go from here.
Thank you very much, Mark, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The most commonly reported challenge that was reflected within the research from Hinge actually reported by 82% of respondents was attracting and developing new customers. Classically, marketing agencies have a service rather than a sales culture, and growth has been organic rather than proactive. New clients have been attracted by reputation and people relationships rather than proactively being targeted, approached and developed. Frequently, an agency is reliant on a small number of key accounts. In some instances, the revenue from one client can represent 50% of the total company turnover, and this is an incredibly dangerous position. So how do agencies try and address this challenge? The first one that we've seen a lot is they're actually introducing a business development function to nurture potential clients, secure new clients, and get to know existing clients and other areas within existing clients better. In order to do this, they need to be able to profile their existing clients so that they can capitalize on where they've had success. Introducing marketing functions beyond a flashy website and becoming proactive with direct marketing activities has also grown. There is an element, like in any industry, of do as I say, not what I do. And the IT industry was equally as bad as this. For example, IT companies in the 1990s were the most lax organizations in taking their backups, although all their customers were bullied into doing it to make sure they were safe. So it's not unusual. The second challenge, which was identified by 25% of respondents, is the changing and volatile economy and increasing competition. Clearly a really difficult challenge to address. Everyone has seen the movement to a global economy and the shifting economic boundaries. Even small clients will now be trading globally. Whereas 20 years ago, if you're a Manchester agency, you were probably just working with Manchester clients. And this has huge implications on the back office in terms of being able to cope with multi-currency, local legal and fiscals, even basic language. Additionally, the global economy brings increased competition where traditional geographic boundaries are now being removed. Brexit, and there's been so much of it in the news that I won't talk about it for too long, will certainly bring changes in terms of legislation and taxation, but it's just not known at present. A recent article in the Financial Director predicts that there will definitely be changes and that these changes will be sudden with fast implementation, and that's something that all businesses have to be aware of. The global economy actually forms an opportunity for business growth as well. The ability to scale the business into new markets without impacting on the core is very important. So what do organisations have to consider? The first one, and probably one of the key ones, is their internal systems, which support the business to make sure that they can be scaled and grow and changed as the business environment changes. Systems that can be and are automatically upgraded. Some may remember the problems caused in the year 2000 by what was called the Y2K bug, where organisations were caught because their internal systems couldn't cope with something as simple as a date ending 2000. And the software houses weren't in a position to actually maintain and automatically upgrade and invest in satisfying that requirement. Those companies had horrendous problems. Any business scaling requires internal system flexibility. You have to have that. The third challenge identified by 24% of the respondents is finding and keeping good staff. The staff of your agency, whether they're the creatives or the back office, are the lifeblood of the business. The key is really how to motivate, and yet on the flip side, to avoid demotivation. How to identify and provide the professional development that keeps them interested. Also, how to provide attractive compensation packages and incentive schemes that make sound business sense. So what do you have to consider with this? By their very nature, creative staff are not motivated by mundane, repetitive, administrative tasks, and therefore systems should be designed to remove them. They need to have a really easy look and feel. If you don't provide your staff with the tools that are easy to use, they won't use them and it'll just become a hassle. One of the things also to look at is that one of the biggest demotivators to any person, and I'm sure that we'll all recognise this, is inaccurate compensation. You have to understand exactly how the payment works and make sure it's correct. The next area that I was going to look at, and this was identified by 24% of respondents, was organisations and agencies are struggling to innovate and find new ideas. Creative organisations, again by their very nature, need to come up with new ideas and, more importantly, be able to measure their success. And that's the success not only for their clients, but for the business itself. This leads to a further challenge of how to retain flexibility when growing and how to communicate the innovations and the new ideas both internally and externally. The key considerations for addressing these challenges have been identified as ensuring that your internal systems are flexible. Too frequently, they can limit and restrict innovation. The age-old computer says no. You've got to have real visibility and up-to-date visibility of project success, not only from the creative perspective, but also from profitability. How easy is it for you to report, particularly across disparate systems? "24% again of respondents, and they may not have been the same people, reported that they have issues with strategy and planning. Management find it difficult to get access to KPIs, so they don't know how the business is growing and changing and what's actually happening. As many organisations have different systems for finance, project planning, production, marketing, business development, CRM, the list goes on, it's very, very difficult to report and pull the information together, and certainly impossible in a real-time situation. Similarly, it's hard to get a true picture of the projects, and of subsidiary profitability. Addressing this challenge can be effectively achieved using technology. A single system enables a single all-encompassing picture. It removes the burden of duplication, the possibility of chance errors, and enables an agency to see the full picture in real time. In conclusion, I'd like to share some of the findings from a recent Aberdeen Group sector survey. This looked at what constitutes a high-growth organisation, with high-growth firms being 45% more profitable. Basically, within a high-growth firm, they have a high propensity of use of fully integrated back-office systems, and that's helped them achieve this level of profitability. These firms have got higher client satisfaction. They've got an increased proportion of projects delivered on time and to budget, better cash flow. It's not surprising they're more profitable than the others. And they've managed to reduce the administrative time and the burden of duplication. So I hope this has given you a flavour of the information within these reports, and I'd like to now hand it back to Mark, who will give you a brief insight into how Nolan can help your agency to address these challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Maggie. That's great. So this slide is kind of a visual representation of what we typically see in agencies in the system. So it's not uncommon that there'll be 3 or 4 back office systems that aren't necessarily integrated together that are being used to run the practice. And these are the kind of main areas that are being covered by those systems. So firstly, opportunity management, project management, resource management, timesheets, expenses, project accounting, and business intelligence. They're the kind of key fundamental areas. And each of the arrows on here is really kind of a visual representation of the data that's being exchanged between these systems, and often that's just manually being rekeyed between them. Sometimes there'll be software integrations, but either way, it's all difficult to maintain and to keep running and to really have run efficiently without any errors occurring. The kind of information being produced is quotes, contracts, sales orders, there's upsell, there's renewals, forecasting, project profitability, resource utilisation, there's billings, chargebacks, budgeting, management reports, just to name a few really of the types of transactions and the types of processes that are actually being used by each of these systems. And many of them are updating the core general ledger or finance system at the back end of it all, which is being used by the finance team ultimately to produce the financial reporting that's used to run the business. And obviously doing things like revenue recognition, the billing and invoicing and reconciliation between systems and from bank accounts and things like that. So when you have a kind of fragmented system, you can see there's a lot going on here. And really to get any kind of meaningful decision making, meaningful reporting is quite challenging. At Nolan, we use a system called NetSuite, SRP, Service Resource Planning. It's a cloud-based system. It sits out on the cloud. You access it via the internet from a web browser, but it's a single cloud-based system that encompasses professional services automation, the financials, and the CRM, the client relationship management, all within one central database. So because it's all just one system, it means your reporting is much easier, and it's much easier to actually make decisions based on data across the whole organisation. It gives you a single version of the truth of really what's going on in your practice, which in turn enables you to have much better client relationships, because when your sales staff are out talking to clients, they can see everything that's going on for their projects, through their what's going on with the accounts team and billing and contracts and everything. Because it's cloud-based, it means there's very easy access to the system. It enables remote working very simply, home working, and these kind of things are much better for staff retention. You have mobile access, so you can get to it from your mobile phones as an Android or iOS app, and you can install and get access to NetSuite, particularly useful when you're putting in timesheets and expenses. And the other key thing about the cloud delivery and the software as a service sort of platform is that upgrades are automatically rolled out to you twice a year. So usually in the spring and autumn, your system will get upgraded. don't have to do anything. NetSuite does it automatically, and that means that if there are changes in the system that are needed to deal with things like Brexit, as Maggie was describing, and they'll just be rolled out to you automatically. So, for example, the EC VAT reporting is bound to change. Those changes will just roll out into your system. So let's just put into that in a little bit more detail. So within a system like NetSuite, we have client management, they're just handling the basic kind of contact management type tasks. There's project management tools, Gantt charts for tasks, work breakdown structures, dependencies, those type of things. Resource management for handling resource utilization, skills matrix, and actually assigning resources to tasks. Time and expense, as I described, so timesheets and employee expenses with approval routing. And all this can be done via the mobile app as well. Opportunity management for the sales team. There's the sort of billing and some quite advanced billing rules to handle things, like if it's a time materials type relationship, contract, project you're working, or if it's a more kind of milestone based billing, we can handle those types of things. And then if your practice is working more on a contract basis with the clients, then quite often there'll be kind of issues around the revenue recognition that the finance team will be struggling with, usually on spreadsheets, and the system will handle that as well. It's automatically all posted into the financial system, so into the general ledger, so budgets and really good analytics and reporting to follow as well. So you can just get real-time profit and loss reports straight out of the system. And it really puts your business at the centre of the system, rather than, and all these things happen around it and support you, your business, your practice, rather than the other way around where you spend a lot of time supporting the systems. To look at it from a couple of users' perspective, if you're the CFO, particularly if you're in a multi-subsidiary environment operating in different countries, then the global business management and financial consolidation is a real challenge. System like NetSuite will has real-time consolidation across subsidiaries with the One World module, so that becomes extremely easy. Advanced revenue recognition we've kind of touched on already, but that's all there and it's really simple to use. And we obviously handle multi-subsidiaries, multi-currency and multi-country, multilingual requirements very, very easily as well. Accurate and efficient billing and invoicing through the system is very easy because the project management and the timesheets and the finances all happen in the same place. So it's very easy then to produce the billing and the invoicing without having to reconcile between each of those three things. If your job is more service-based, then just having real-time resource information and being able to see who's available when to do tasks is great. Consolidated time tracking across the whole business, again, particularly in a multi-subsidiary environment, and also billing we've talked about, but really having those KPIs coming through in real time to actually manage your resources and manage the performance of projects is fundamental. So just to give you a flavour really, I'm not going to go into a full demo, but just a flavour of the look and feel of NetSuite. So here's a couple of key screens that we would use. So there's obviously a representation of what it looks like on the mobile app there and on the iPhone app. There's a project dashboard, so you can get a dashboard for each individual project. The resource allocation chart enables you to drag and drop tasks between resources with similar skill sets and so on to plan out the actual resources and who's working on which project. And then you can have some overriding dashboards as well, and it'll give you a view from a high level across the whole practice. These screens are highly customizable for each user, so they can easily get to the information that they want to get to. It's more of a role-based view of NetSuite. So the general manager, again, will look at kind of a higher level view, some key KPIs on the dashboards. VP of Professional Services gets a view, as an example, of project profitability. That shows profitability across every project going on, but they can obviously drill down into each project and then drill down within some labour and expenses or whatever cost categories you've configured to get down to actual project detail and compare against budgets and look at profitability and start to make decisions around how can we make this project more profitable, for example. Project manager gets a dashboard for each project, so they can be planning out resources available to that project and actually looking at dependencies of tasks and monitoring Gantt chart and so on. And then for billing, there's a little screenshot there of just the sort of time-based billing rules if you're billing at standard rates and so on in that example. All this means really that this simple access to systems and key business processes enables more innovation for your staff because they're not having to worry about managing these tasks and trying to reconcile between different systems. It's much easier to do it all in one place, which gives them more time to be thinking about new ideas. The finance team's life is a lot easier. There's a lot of time saved on year ends and month end reporting, and enables them to spend more time on more kind of value added activities. So this sort of final slide for me is just some information and from NetSuite surveying its own customers and looking at the improvements that they've gained throughout their practices in these different areas. So business visibility, because you have this 360-degree view across the whole practice, you can look at a particular client and see exactly what's going on with that client from different perspectives, from finance or from a project or from a customer service perspective, and that insight is greatly increased. From a financial management perspective, the time to collect debt, the credit control is that much easier, and we see that improved by 30 to 45%. Time to close financial books is massively reduced, down to, reduced by 45 to 75% in some cases. That's a real huge benefit. Accounting staff productivity is therefore increased, leaving them, as I said earlier, free to work on kind of value add initiatives. That's increased by 25 to 45%. From a professional service engagement perspective, the availability and utilisation of resources is typically improved between around 20 and 50%. So if you work that out, if you look at your kind of billable resources across the business, to measure an increase in their utilisation by at a minimum of 20%, that's a huge increase. Time taken to produce reports is massively improved, so 75 to 85% is what's seen, and really that comes back to this all being just one single system. All the data is in one place, so you can produce a report across any part of the practice all within one single solution. From a sales and marketing perspective, sales productivity and capacity is improved by an average 20 to 40%, and therefore the revenue performance is up 2 to 5%. Things like upsell become much more easy to manage and to produce. Your IT teams, the IT support resource of your solutions is massively reduced because it's the cloud delivery. You don't have to worry about servers and hosting and backups and integrations between and upgrades and all those things. So you typically see a reduce in IT support costs by between 45 and 75%. And obviously, alongside that, if you have any plans for business continuity and disaster recovery, those costs rapidly reduce as well, typically down 50 to 75%, because the bottom line is if you've got an internet browser and a connection, you can get into your systems and continue working. So that's the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to post them now online, or we'll put you in touch with Maggie. She'll follow up anyway at the end of the webinar. And yeah, thank you very much for attending.